And in addition to that, the unemployment factor because there are no jobs available. In fact, we have closed down so many businesses. Although the farm workers and the medical sectors are desperately needed. Uh, but at the same time, I can see in the future where brown people and yellow people will be targeted, while blacks and Hispanics are worstly affected and dying at an extraordinary rate of 2 to 1. There are too many deaths now for any protests against government policies. And that will be handled later, I'm sure. The effects are important on the economic side, but I've heard where many people in our US Congress are looking for a new commission to be set up to analyze, to plan, and to set up new policies for preparedness. So we'll have to wait and see how that affect migration. Thank you.
Can I come in, Nandini, now?
Yes.
Just very brief
I've got to
intervention.
follow up with, sorry, I've got to follow up with Ashok. Is that okay? Sorry, I'm not sure. A quick comment. See, what happened in the US and the UK, they put the economy first. That's a very important point. There's a notion that you can save the economy. And it was, I think in India and South Africa, etc., it was looking at the health implications. And linked to that, both India and South Africa didn't have the capacity. If you're looking at the projections of how many 100,000 people would end up in ventilators, and certainly in South Africa, they did the calculations, there was no way they're going to get. So the idea was they cannot stop the spread. It's actually reducing it. The doctors in South Africa are saying we are buying time. We're trying to break the spread, etc. And like in South Africa, they're saying the peak will be reached in September because we are moving now into winter. Where apparently the virus is more dangerous. But this debate about the polarization between lives or business, it's a very interesting ethical debate. Sorry to interject.
I'll just say a few words, Nandini. Can I?
To answer your question,
this is Binod Khadria. I listened to the three speakers, and this was very important points. What I see about the issues that have been raised are global cooperation, and at the same time, the policy issues. That's where I see that there is a divide between the long run and the short run. If we look at the internal migration, then these are some of the issues which need to be attended immediately. And that's where I think the countries have faltered. We can think about our own country in India now. People, there are initiatives for sending them back home. That should have been done a month ago. In fact, they should have been encouraged to bring back to work now rather than sending back home. So there is a dichotomy there that needs to be taken into account. What is therefore going to happen in the short run would be, rather than mobility, it would be the immobility of the labor, and at the same time return migration, without having avenues for livelihood around their homes. That I think needs to be built on an urgent basis. At the same time, if we look at, say, Ashok Ramasaran had mentioned about the high-skilled migrants, the H-1B visa holders, and what is going to happen to them. Now, it is a matter of coincidence that on 23rd of April, we had two legal enactments, one in United States of America and the other in India. In USA, it was, as Ashok had already mentioned, no new migration. There's no entertainment of green cards anymore. Green card applications are completely on pause right now. But there is an exception, like he mentioned, the health workers are accepted. There are exceptions there, and their families' applications will be entertained because that is what is needed. Those are the STEM professionals, there's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and that includes doctors and nurses also. So there is going to be a fray for the health professionals all over the world. The coincidence that I'm mentioning about what happened in India actually, with an ordinance, enacted the Diseases Act. 123-year-old Diseases Act was amended to punish those who are attacking the health workers, because there have been rampant incidents of those who were trying to enforce social distancing were attacked. And so I think overnight this ordinance was passed that there will be severe punishment for those who, bring harm to these, heroes, or as we call them, we have to stand in their, appreciation. That I think is a coincidence. So what lesson do we, the migration scholars or the migration researchers draw from this? That there is going to be brain drain coming back again. People were thinking, oh, that the brain drain is passé, and now we talk about remittances, compensating and return migration taking place. But now onwards, we'll see that there will be a high degree of selectivity in migration, and that might threaten even the initiative like the Global Compact of Migration. Global Compact for Migration, GCM, which was signed after 16 years of effort, starting with Kofi Annan in 2002, that brought to the table in 2018 and signed, accepting a few countries withdrawing. It was the hope that there would be multilateralism. But my suspicion is that we are moving way back from multilateralism to unilateralism. And that is the point that I just wanted to pick on you and the speakers that have already spoken. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Khadria. And now I move into Professor Jaisuriya. You would like to say something on this?
Yeah, I think I just wanted to comment because your earlier question was whether there was any useful example from our own countries, because I think all of us were painting very negative pictures of our administration. I can only think of media coverage of multi-stakeholder engagement to address UNHCR card holders, which is about 180,000, that was initiated by UNHCR, Ministry of Health, police, and a number of NGOs, including Muslim Relief and Mercy Malaysia, where they took a collective decision that the medical testing and treatment would be free for these people. So I think that's very constructive, and the police gave assurances to UNHCR cardholders. But I think we also have a large section of illegal migrants, undocumented people who didn't have that assurance and could be arrested, and as a result were vulnerable as well. So we look, as we see within countries like Malaysia or other countries, some good policy examples, but not sufficient, because we have not overall taken a very strong human rights conventional position in terms of its treatment during crisis periods of this nature, because the safety of all people are important, because if you neglect one section, it will also threaten other sections. So it's very short-term kind of thinking to do that. And this is something I think the global community would have to have a kind of ceasefire or non-arrest at this period in immunity, so that people would come out, get treated or tested, and the medical cost for these testing and treatment should be absorbed, because it can be quite enormous. But having said all that, our deaths are still quite low because of the strict enforcement and things of that sort. So at least there is one good example of interagency and stakeholder collaboration. And checking on migrants, stateless, undocumented, I think it's civil society coming in with public donations to assist where there is a major gap and where social protection laws are not there as in more developed countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. And now Professor Stephanie has already put her answer in the chat for all of us to see. So I will move to the Indian contingent now, which has been waiting very patiently and
Yes.
have not spoken yet. So Professor Sahu, will you now take us through the gendered aspect of migration? What do you feel about it? Because there are so many women migrant laborers. We saw the condition that they were in. We saw the condition that the men were in and the women were in. But do you think that the women were impacted a bit more in